Hi there, this is Colin McGarry with Walking D-Day and we're at Luc Sur Mer. After the Battle of Britain in 1940, Hitler had given up the idea of invading England and turned his attention to Russia. In 1941, Stalin was calling for some action from the British, so it was from this situation that Operation Deep Cut and Chopper were born. The plan was to have a two-pronged attack, one to Zabuhailo and one to Courseulles. We would concentrate on Chopper, which was the first commando raid into the future D-Day landing zone. The mission for both operations was to test the readiness of the Germans and to capture a German prisoner to interrogate. It was to take place on a night between the 27th and the 30th of September 1941. That was to take advantage of the rising tide and no moon. The force was from Commando No. 1, commanded by Lieutenant Colonel Glendinning. Troop No. 5 was commanded by Captain Davis. Section No. 1 was under Lieutenant Scaramanga and Section No. 2 under Lieutenant Hemings. They were to use the reassigned ferry, HMS Prince Leopold, and it would carry 4 LCAs. They'd also have 2 destroyers and 3 motor gunboats, or MGBs. The RAF would be at their disposal if they needed backup. Now on each mission, one landing craft would take the men ashore, one would stay just off the coast to patrol. Then once on shore, one group would stay by the beach, while another group went inland to carry out the mission. Recent aerial photos gave good views of where they were to land. The commandos were called to Falmouth on the 19th of September. They practiced landing on beaches just near Falmouth during the night and during the day. On the 26th of September, they would start moving towards Portsmouth, where the missions are going to start. Lieutenant Colonel Glendinning will go with Force A towards Unfa and Captain Davis with Force B to Courseulles. They left Portsmouth 20 minutes late due to a problem with one of the motors on the MGBs and also waiting for Aldis lamps to be delivered, which they would use for signalling. They were heading to Point X, which would be equidistant between Zabuhailo and Courseulles. Point X was reached at 22:15. The 4 LCAs were lowered into the sea. Force A set off towards Zabuhailo, and Force B, that we're concentrating on, set off towards Courseulles. They each had about 12 miles to go. MGB 314 takes in tow LCA 25 and LCA 74. LCA 25 has the assault troop, troop number 2, and 74 has the group that's going to stay patrolling off the coast. Now after a bit, LCA 25 asked to slow down because they're taking in water. So that adds to the loss in time. And shortly afterwards, the motorboat stopped and somebody cast off the tow ropes. But that was a mistake because the motorboat was just stopping to take a depth sounding. It lost another 10 minutes while they were getting back the tow rope. So soon the motorboat commander estimates they're at 4 nautical miles from their objective. So the tow ropes are cast off and the 2 LCAs head off towards the beach, going at 4 knots. At 1:30 they can see the land, but it doesn't look anything like the photos they had. The LCA commander thinks it's Courseulles, and Captain Davis, he thinks it's Saint-Aubin. They're both wrong. It was Luc Sur Mer. Even though they're 90 minutes behind schedule, the decision is taken to land the Commando. They just have 15 minutes before they should head back to Point X for the rendezvous with Prince Leopold. but they would have to try and capture a German. The raiding party, led by Lieutenant Gordon Hemings, heads up the beach while the support group stays by the shore. Almost immediately, machine gun fire comes from the west, then the east, and from a window just 100 yards to the left. In front of them is a 9-foot wall of the dike with barbed wire on top. Flares are sent up. The decision is taken to retreat to the landing craft. The support party covers their retreat. While they were scrambling aboard, 2 commandos fall off the back. Sergeant Hougue hauls them back on board. 2 commandos are still missing. No bodies are visible on the beach or in the sea. LCA 25 moves away from the beach as silently as possible. With the oldest lamp, they signal to the motorboat and to LCA 74. The MGB 314 replies, and they soon meet. The men are transferred onto the motorboat, and the LCA is under tow. LCA 24 not arriving, they head for Portsmouth, where they arrive at 10 a.m. LCA 74 saw the signal and started heading out to sea. They could see LCA 25 about 100 yards to the left. In the other direction, they saw a vessel with 2 smaller vessels about 500 yards away. Thinking they might be German E-boats, they headed towards where they had seen the LCA 25. By 2:45, not having found LCA 25 or MGB 314, they head towards Portsmouth. They arrive at Shoreham at 1:20 p.m. Although they'd lost 2 men in the mission, they learnt some useful lessons. A fast motorboat towing LCAs could cause them to sink, and they should have more fuel aboard. Using bayonets in these missions could cause wounds to your comrades, and using flares to signal was not much use when the Germans could send up flares to illuminate the whole area. Gordon Hemings was invited for the 10th anniversary of the raid in 1951. Without the town being specified, Hemings went to Saint-Aubin before being redirected to Luc Sur Mer. It was only then he realised where they had actually landed. A stele has been erected to the site of the landings in 1949. The square has been named after Hemings. He went to visit the graves of the 2 commandos killed in the raid at the foot of the tower. Elwyn Edwards and Cyril Evans. Next to them is the grave of Wing Commander Pitcairn. He was shot down during the Battle of Britain, and his body is washed up in the channel at Luc Sur Mer. Gordon Hemings was also present for the 50th anniversary, and he made a speech at the church. Before leaving the town, he asked the mayor for permission for his ashes to be buried next to his comrades who died in the raid. He died in 1992, and his ashes were placed here the next year in 1993. And then when his wife died in 2005, her ashes were placed here as well next to his. On the 7th of June, Luc Sur Mer was liberated by the 46th Royal Marine Commando.